if you just pulled up to this parking lot, you'd probably just turn around. Nobody just like was walking down the street, and stumbled across it and then was like, oh, great, I'm going to go check it out.
Because I am a coach and I'm in the gym, it's really helpful because I hear people's problems. And so taking their problems and just kind of trying to use social media to address those things is really helpful.
So you essentially started a gym for free.
Kind of, actually.
No money down.
Yeah, that's true. No money down.
Hello and welcome to Gym World Worldwide. I am your host, John Franklin, joined with me as always with my co-host and friend and business partner, Mateo Lopez. Mateo, you said you've had a sign in the background for the last 20 episodes or so that I didn't notice until yesterday. Now looking at the frame, you can see I can't see it in the frame. So can you hold it up so all our listeners can see what it says?
The corner now.
Yeah, it says Gator Done Parking.
This is it right here.
That is the name of Mateo's boat. So
it's a hand-me-down. It's a hand-me-down boat.
He's now a true converted Florida man. But it's not about Teo today. We have very special guests. We're always trolling the internet for sexy looking gyms and cool looking concepts that you guys can learn from. And we came across Kyle and Jessica Doster Chill of Hunger in the Wild. So welcome, guys. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for having a microphone. We appreciate that.
Absolutely. Happy to be here. Thank you.
So tell us about your gym. Give us a quick background of the concept and how it came to be in its current form. I'm gonna throw up some pictures here so people can see it because it's a sweet looking gym.
Starting from the beginning.
Yeah, because you guys started pretty small, right? This wasn't you didn't start out with a big 7,500 square foot sexy looking strength gym.
No, we did. We started with about 700 or 800 square feet in the basement of a CrossFit gym in downtown Dallas in 2016. And go ahead.
Did it start as like a weightlifting program? Like how did you start in the basement of a CrossFit gym?
So prior to that, I had just moved to Dallas. I was working at a gym that's no longer around, but it's called Eastside Athletic Club. And I was training. I started a weightlifting program there, and things didn't really work out, so I left. And I had one client that I took with me, I guess, and then the rest I left to try to leave on good terms. But he was a discus thrower from Arizona State, and so he was using the Olympic lifts to train for his sport. So it was just me and him. That's how it started. And then I started teaching weightlifting classes. And for about a year, it was 3 days a week, just Olympic weightlifting classes, and then a few personal training clients. And then we eventually added strength conditioning classes, and then it turned into an everyday thing. And I think we combined the membership, included all classes together in 2018, I think. So about 2 years. Then we moved into our first facility, our own location, in 2019. We were there for about 6 months, and COVID happened. And then after COVID, the building actually burnt down. So we had a fire. And then we had to relocate May 7th of 2021.
Yeah, it was like the week we were scheduled to reopen, the building caught on fire and was condemned. We couldn't move back into it. So we had 1 week to like scramble and find a place where we could reopen with like 100 and something members at that point.
Yeah. And so we did. We found somewhere, moved in, set up shop, opened on the 17th, I believe, was the day we could reopen after COVID. And never missed a beat. We were there. I figured it would be quick while we found a new building and built it out and everything. So we did find a building. I think it was August of that year. Signed a lease. It was a brand new build, so we were involved in like the design of everything. And turned out to be a bad situation. The landlord put our listing up on LoopNet and tried to sell. He was selling the building while we had a signed lease and had finished the build out. We're getting ready to move in. We had moved the flooring in, like exit signs, fire extinguishers, basic stuff. And he wouldn't give me the keys. And turns out he was selling the building. And so we went into some legal battles back and forth, lasted about close to a year. Ended up finally coming to an end with that, where we took a settlement. It was not a great situation, but it ended that so we could finally move on. And we moved on. So we stayed in the temporary location, during that time. Meanwhile, like, I'm telling all the members, hey, we're getting ready to move. We have this brand new building. Here's what it looks like. It's brand new for you. It's great. And then, like, hey, it's going to be another week. Anyways, so we end that, take the settlement, find another building, which is the one we're currently in, and then moved in here January 2021.
Sounds familiar. Yeah, we've been through similar tribulations.
So you were like involved with the build out of that space, and you were putting stuff in, and then secretly on the side, he was like, I'm going to offload this thing anyway.
Yeah. So it came time to apply for the CO. And if we rewind like a few months, my contractor, he wouldn't allow my contractor to do the work because he was the contractor for his building. And he puts up the walls inside, like builds the front desk, starts to do all the bathrooms with the corners for the doorways and everything. He didn't even use the right, like wood for the walls. It wasn't fireproof. So he put up the, interior, and then my contractor came with me one day to like just check it out while it was all being done. And it was like measuring things, and nothing was up to code. Like nothing. The height of the counter, the bathroom, interior, I mean, nothing. And so then we had to redo it, and ended up mostly coming out of my pocket, because it's just a terrible situation. Yeah.
How much money were you into this build that you had to walk away from?
A lot, 50,000, something like that. And yeah, it was a lot. I think total, and then attorney fees on top of that, it ended up being well over 50 at the end.
The worst we've heard on the show is 2 million. So don't feel bad.
Hey, I like that. All right. That's pretty. Thank you.
He had 2 million in his gym. COVID, the building sold. They kicked him out. He got a settlement, but he only recovered like I think $1.5 million of it. So could be worse. There's no bottom of the pit in the gym world.
No, there's not. Certain.
So let's go back. You started in the basement of the CrossFit gym. What were you paying in rent for that?
So I showed up one day with this guy. It was the athlete I was training, right? And we were just looking for somewhere to train in Dallas after I left the gym I was previously working at. We went to several, and I was, I would talk to the owner, ask if, for an opportunity to come in, bring clientele, kind of do my own thing. And nobody, they were not really about it. So we just go to another location. It was CrossFit Heat was where we dropped in, and we were there working out. They were they were great. They ended up leaving us there during the day. It was owned by Dallas SWAT. They were like going to work or whatever. And we finished working out. We're just kind of walking around, and there's a basement that we stumbled upon. Go down there, and it was like just full of trash, and like it had been flooded, and the pipes were broken. It was pretty bad looking, but I saw something. I was like, I think maybe this could work. And I came back that night with a lease document that I had wrote, and made an offer to lease that space. And they just kind of were like, the fuck? Or like, what's going on here? I think they were very shocked. And
that you would give them money for that space?
Exactly. Yeah. And what we ended up agreeing on was like a percentage of, because I didn't have any money. I mean, I literally, I didn't have any. I was just training as an athlete and kind of working a little bit. And so I offered a percentage of my income. And, it was over the course of, I think it originally like a year is what I thought I would be there. And it was like scaled. So there were levels to it. And I think at first I had to use their payment processor to process all transactions through their like Zen Planner or something. And it was like 50-50, I think, initially. And then at maybe 20 members, it was like 60-40 in my favor. And then, eventually 50 members, maybe 70-30. I think when they saw it and then eventually agreed to it, they were like, all right, we're not going to do anything. You're just going to come in here and basically give us money. So cool. But also, very doubtful. Like this is probably not going to work. But it ended up, long story short, working. And eventually I could process payments through my own software, and ended up just paying them a check at the end of the month. I think when I finally moved out, it was like $2,500 a month is what I was paying them every month.
So you essentially started a gym for free.
Kind of, actually.
No money down.
Yeah, that's true. No money down.
There you go. That's it.
Yeah,
That's the
there
alpha
you
you
go.
come to Gym World for, people. You
That's
start your
it.
gym, no money down.
I don't know if that's how if that's the well, yeah. Interpret it how you want. That's how it began.
We talk to a lot of people who do like, $2-3 million builds, and a lot of people feel like that's how they have to start. But a lot of our favorite stories start from a bedroom, a
$0
garage.
builds.
Yeah, that's cooler.
I have one. Well, depends who you ask. I have one. I had a set of equipment, or like one and a half. So I had a couple bars and some weights. Brought those in. They allowed me to use, some of theirs, and then, we slowly, added equipment. Eventually, put in some flooring in the basement that I bought from a gym that was closing down the street, and painted the logo on the wall, and there was no running water downstairs. There wasn't even really electricity. We had to pull electricity from upstairs using extension cords to run downstairs. So then I had like those waters that you get at like Whole Foods.
The big like 5-gallon jugs.
Yeah, I have one of those downstairs that I would take home at night to fill it up, bring it back the next day, and that kind of paints the picture, I think.
Dallas, from what I understand, gets pretty hot. So what was it like in the basement without electricity training people?
There were no windows, no doors.
Airflow.
Yeah, except for to go upstairs.
The walls would like sweat in the summer, so like it would be so humid that there would just be water like coming down the wall.
It was well over 100 degrees.
And in the winter, it's not that cold here in the winter, but down there it was cold. So like when you first started lifting, it would hurt to just touch the barbell because the barbell was so cold.
Brutal.
And what were you charging for this luxury experience training?
Before this, I was like digging through the archives to look that up. The first membership I offered was $75 for 3 sessions a week in 2016. And then shortly after that, when I moved out, I was charging $160 at that location before we moved into our new location. So, yeah.
And so, Jessica, have you been involved the entire way, or at what point did you jump into this?
Yeah, so I started as a member in like the end of 2017. So when I started, they were having the week I started, they were having their 1-year anniversary of being open. So 2017.
So were you guys you guys are married, correct?
Yes. Yeah, correct.
Okay.
We're
Were you
married.
married at the time, or is that how you met?
That's how we met.
Yeah.
Classic. A
No.
tale as old as time.
It was
It took a while.
It took a long time.
It took a long time.
It goes against the
We were
rules. I get
very
it.
careful. It was, yeah.
Tale as old as time. All right. So then you basically had the business from like a member standpoint de-risked by the time you moved into your first space, right?
Yes.
Like we talked about some of the construction risk you took on and how that can blow up.
Yeah.
But like, it sounded like you'd taken out a substantial portion of the risk by the time you jumped in and signed your own space.
Yeah. I was able to save, some money. Whenever she moved in with me, the place I was living in didn't even have central AC.
Also didn't have electricity. Also didn't have running water.
Yes.
Also the walls were sweating.
Correct. I didn't live there. It was a house, but yes, it was basically the same setup. So I was able to save some money, and and then I had a member base. I think we had around maybe 50 to 60 members when we moved.
And so how were you getting these people? It wasn't because of the luxury training experience. What were you doing to build up a member base?
I'm happy to answer, and I will, but I think it's better whenever she tells it from her perspective, because she, came to the gym.
Yeah, I was doing CrossFit. I've been doing CrossFit for like 6 months, and I wanted to learn the Olympic lifts. And I had a friend who knew Kyle's reputation as a weightlifter, and she recommended I check out his gym. And so I called in, And I the first time you visit, it's like you pull in, so it's in a really bad part of downtown. So like there are like
Just keeps getting better.
yeah,
like
there's people sleeping on the street outside. There's like razor wire on the fence around the whole building. Like last time we just went and took somebody to see what it looked like. We literally saw someone like defecating outside the
there's a homeless like shelter.
There's a few shelters around the
right
corner.
next door.
So I'm like by myself pulling up. There's like only one person here. And I walk in and I'm like, okay, there's music playing from downstairs. So I guess that's where I should go. So I go downstairs and he's in the middle of his workout. He's doing like heavy clean triples with 170 kilos. And I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, what is going on? And we talk. He tells me about the membership. He tells me pricing, all of that. And there was like another weightlifting gym in Dallas that I had checked out. And for me, making my decision was about like him as a weightlifter and like looking through his Instagram and seeing his success and success he had with people lifting. And I just kind of started looking at the gym's Instagram and the type of stuff that he was posting and the mindset and the mentality. And that really inspired me. And that's kind of why I made the decision. And then I think for the first few years, people would either find the gym through word of mouth and bring their friends. That happened a lot. Or they would find us on Instagram, find him on Instagram. And a lot of it was Instagram. Now it's a lot of Google, but in the beginning, it definitely is.
Yeah.
A lot of social media.
For sure.
For the people listening at home, we're just playing videos in the background of Kyle lifting a truck, basically. So basically, you led from the front. You built it from your own reputation, your own performance, and then that of the athletes you were coaching.
Yeah,
is what I'm hearing.
I noticed when I moved to Dallas, there really wasn't a lot of Olympic weightlifting. There was a lot of powerlifting, but there weren't a lot of weightlifting gyms. And I think when I recognized that, I kind of jumped on it and wanted to kind of own it as my niche, and really that's what I did. And so it was a good natural fit. And coaching and things, it's hard to coach, and it's hard to find somebody who knows how to coach it. So yeah, I think people, whenever they came to me, if they could find the gym, usually whenever they called and wanted to schedule an appointment, I would always say, like, text me when you're on the way, because I'll come out and meet you. Because if you just pulled up to this parking lot, you'd probably just turn around. It's not the most inviting place, and there's one of the like restrictions with the CrossFit gym was they didn't want me to have like my gym's name, on top of theirs or whatever, which I understand entirely. So nobody just like was walking down the street, and stumbled across it and then was like, oh great, I'm gonna go check it out.
It's one of those things where if they work through all those hurdles to actually get to you, they were probably signing up because they were determined. They were determined to sign up and learn from you.
Yes, I think absolutely. Yeah. So
your close rate was 100%.
It was really good. The numbers were low. The volume was low, but yeah, it was pretty close to 100. Absolutely.
Hey, gym owners, are you looking for a way to generate more leads, close more sales, and increase client retention? Introducing Kilo. We are a software company that gives gym owners the tools they need to increase revenue and run a successful gym. With Kilo, you get a beautifully designed website to capture more leads, an integrated marketing automation platform to increase sales, and our gym management software so you can add new client memberships, process payments, and organize your class schedule. If you're ready to upgrade your gym management software, book a call at usekilo.com.
And so Flash, like, were you always good at Instagram? So it looks like you have like 35,000 followers. The gym has, let's see, was it like 12,000, 10,000, something like that? I'm deep down here. Yeah, 12,000. Jessica, you got a bit of a following as well. Was this something you always did right? Or is this something that happened later throughout time?
So before I moved to Texas, I was living in St. Louis, and the gym I worked at there, the lab gym, I was very involved with their like Instagram. I basically ran it or helped run it. And then at the same time, I was competing in weightlifting, and I mean that was early days Instagram for sure. And I was posting a lot of my stuff, for, doing both of them, really managing them both, and was doing it very consistently. So caught some traction, and did the same thing with the gym when I started in 2016 religiously. And I don't know if good is the right way to describe it, but it's definitely something that very early on I saw as a an opportunity, and like something that would eventually turn to a valuable asset if done right.
I mean, consistent is good. That's most of the battle there.
Absolutely.
Being able to lift 1 million pounds probably helps too.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't know. All right. So then let's flash forward to today. Talk to me, because you're no longer like primarily a weightlifting gym from what I understand. Talk to me about what your offering is now and how you package and price your service.
Yeah, definitely. So really, there are two classes or programs that we offer: the weightlifting and the strength. Typically, when people show up, they're here for one or the other. We never have anybody come in and we're like, we want both. We want to do both. That's why we're here. So on an intake form, whenever they book an appointment to come in for consultation, we typically know their interests, and so we can kind of immediately cater towards that and customize it. Our membership is, we bill $220 every 4 weeks. We do have a $50 initiation fee. The membership includes unlimited classes, access to both. To do the weightlifting classes, though, we do require a prerequisite. So we have a 3-session on-ramp with a coach to learn the Olympic lifts. Then the membership includes 24-hour access and programming through our app, where they receive, like Jessica had described, it's personalized programming, because you use percentages for everything. So it's going to prescribe your weights and give you, specific recommendations based off what you've done. And also, like, the point of the training cycle that we're in and how much we're expecting you to lift. And we also do personal training.
So how are what's the calendar look like? Is it like a mix between Olympic lifting sessions and the strength sessions, or are they the same, or?
Yeah, we have more strength classes than Olympic weightlifting. So we have 6 noon, 5:30 for strength. And then for weightlifting, most people don't want to do the Olympic lifts at 6 o'clock in the morning. So we've never really had a demand for an AM weightlifting class. So it's 5 to 6:30 in the evenings. And then we have classes on Saturday as well. Everybody typically rests on Sunday.
So it looks like you're running about 4 classes a day. Is that right? And then the rest of it's just like supervised open gym?
Correct. Yep. Yeah.
It's pretty lean.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Pretty cool. That's nice.
We have one mobility class on Monday. And then Jessica teaches a class on Saturday. It's a glute class, and has just exploded. I've never seen anything like it. There's like 40, 50 people there every Saturday. It's wild.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Glutes are very trendy right now. That probably... We're not doing enough on that on social media. I don't see a lot of, there's a lot
there
of
should
people.
be more advertising on that class, I think.
I agree.
We have like a really special group of girls who all have just built this community. And so I think it just started with 8 or 9 of them, and then they just kept bringing their friends and kept bringing their friends, and it'll typically be 90% girls. We've finally gotten some guys to do it, but it'll be maybe 5 or 6 guys and the rest just a bunch of girls. It's pretty funny.
There we go. So this is prepping for the glute
exactly
class right here.
Yes.
We gotta go onto Jessica's Instagram to get all the glute pictures.
Yes.
Okay. And so it's like 220 to, said the higher ticket one's 350 every 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And so how many members do you guys have now?
Right now, about 160.
And what are the class caps for if you're only doing 4 sessions a day,
So
more or less? Yeah.
Right now they're capped at 20, but they're not technically capped. That's where the registrants would, they're not, you can no longer book in. We have had them exceed that a little bit, so we'll probably move that to 25. The way they're set up for the weightlifting class, it's an hour and a half. Most people don't show up at 5, they will show up, throughout that hour and a half time frame. It's kind of like it's like a training hall environment. So there's a coach or two that walks around, provides instruction, gives recommendations, helps guide. And then the strength class very much starts on the hour, everybody goes together, ends on at the end of the hour. But yeah, we typically cap the classes at 20, except for our class on Saturday. It has no cap. It's unlimited. And we usually end up having, I would say 15 to 20 is probably around average for the classes. So we'll eventually need to add another, whether that becomes a 4:30 or a 6:30 time, just trying to hold off until it's very obvious that's what we need to do.
And 7,200 square feet, that sounds pretty big. Maybe not so much for a weightlifting gym. I know that requires a little more space.
But before the clientele, it does seem a little large.
It definitely
is. Rent cheap? Is rent cheap, or is
it is not. Going, I think at the time I just wanted to find something so bad and quickly, because I had all these people, members who were at this temporary gym, and they were we needed to find a home. And so when I signed the lease, it was, there were not just a ton of options that I was looking at, choosing one that's the best. It turned out to be a pretty good decision. We don't utilize the space as well as we could. But to your point, a weightlifting platform competitor, like a training platform, is 8x8. And then you have the weights, and the weight tree between it, which is another couple feet. We have 10 platforms. So it takes up a considerable amount of space.
And so it was just kind of like you needed a space, and this was the space available.
Yeah, I think more or less that it fit, it worked. It was like the numbers worked, they checked out. This landlord had a much better reputation than the past landlord. It was in a good location. And prior to that, it was, my first location, for example, moving out of the basement to the first location I moved into. It took a long time to find something that would work at that point, because I had to be, there weren't $2 million that I had laying around to invest in a property. So I had to find something that would fit, my budget, but also the gym, that the setup we need, and then allow enough room for the members that we had and would grow into. And so at that point, I had looked at every building in Dallas, it seemed like, and I knew what was out there more or less. And whenever we came across this, it was good enough at the time to pull the trigger and start doing, something. I think at the time, my concern was like, these people have stuck with me through all this, and but will they continue to? How long will this last before people are like, all right, it's another, there's something else came up, we're gonna, go. And the temporary location we were at was great, but prior to that, the building that burnt down, we had 24-hour access there. The temporary location, the landlord wouldn't allow us to have that. So there were like quite a few, and we were restricted to a really small area. That space.
We went from having like 6,000 square feet, like just big open, and then to like 2,000 square feet shared location with a jiu-jitsu gym. So like more than half of the gym was jiu-jitsu. And we went from having 10, 12 platforms to having 4 platforms in this small space, and then barely any space to like have our strength classes.
It was fenced off as well. So we were kind of like herded cattle in a small area, but a big building. So it just wasn't a very comfortable, space or situation. So the big open space looked nice and very appealing. And then also, to run the classes that we run. And then we have a few like machines and, like bodybuilding equipment type setup. And so for the strength class, the weightlifting class, those set up. And then the bodybuilding, type accessory work. There's not a ton of extra space, but yeah, it's larger. It's definitely on the larger side of facility.
Well, so yeah, I had a question about the name. Normally I would kind of advise gyms to, put the word gym in the name or personal training in the name or something to indicate what it is that the business does. There's a funny example from New York where there's a Thai restaurant that's called Best Thai Near Me, I believe. So I wouldn't advise that necessarily, but
For sure.
I do think the name is cool, but I'm curious as what your kind of philosophy is on the name and the brand and the trade-offs of having a gym name that it's not quite clear what it is when you look at it, but on the flip side, you kind of establish this ethos that comes with it. So maybe talk a little bit about how you think about the name and the branding.
Yeah, think a lot about it. I did it initially as well. It was, I would say, looking back, it was definitely one of the harder decisions I feel like I had to make. Was like, what do I name this gym or this company business? Um, and initially, I was thinking, yes, very much like the word strength or gym or weightlifting. Maybe it's like I don't want to, I don't just want to do something generic and basic like everybody else, and wanted something unique. This kept in the back of my head. My brother, when I was in high school, he wrote like a poem. It's called the Warrior's Prayer, and it more or less is what became Hunger in the Wild, and it's about a warrior in the wild, lost in the wild, more or less, and the what you'll do to continue, for the next day to survive and thrive. And the warrior's cry to pierce the night. Anyways, it really, to me, when he put it on my wall when I was a kid and he had moved off, he had gone to college. And it was like, I'd always worked hard. I always was very driven, like focused. And it kind of summarized, I think, everything I stood for at the time and still do today in only a few words. And it stuck with me. And I mean, throughout my whole life. And whenever I was trying to figure out, what to call this basement gym thing that I was starting, it just kept coming back to that. And I was like, you know what, I asked some people what they thought. Some were like, whoa, I don't suggest doing that. Others were like, yeah, it's cool. Maybe it's catchy or maybe people will, I think it sparks curiosity. And so, I did a little bit of research and I realized, like, you know what, I could call it this. If it just doesn't work, then I could always change it. It's not like I'm putting a big sign up on a $2 million location. It's just really at that point, it was only for like state, doctor, documentation and establishing the business. And then today, I mean, it really, I think people initially when they see it, like I said, they are at very least curious and it sticks. And then, whenever they look into it, which is usually what you do when you're curious about something, they start to immediately understand, to some degree, what it is or what it stands for, what it means. And for me, it's just like a relentless, it's relentless pursuit to continue no matter what. And it's like the poem ended and it was something about like, uh, you know, like forever hungry despite being full. And I mean, that's what it is. It's like, to continue to aspire for more regardless of how much you already have or what you've done. So the hunger is really something that it lives here, it lives within me. And I think the people who join and really become part of what we're doing, you can't help but, take some of that to heart and live your life just a little bit differently because of it.
And how does that like permeate through the culture of the gym? Like, is this something that your coaches talk about or kind of exude? Is it something that you post about? How does this like kind of permeate through to the rest of the gym and the members?
I think it's not really something we necessarily talk about at all, but it definitely is something that is in the air. And it's like, I think maybe like we talked about the way it started and, it was very much from nothing. And, but there was this pursuit to do something, and every step of the way, whenever maybe something was achieved or accomplished, it was like, that was, then it's on to the next thing and on to the next thing. And, whether that's with goals and in the gym to, lift more weight or, in your life to get that new job or, get the promotion that you're wanting or whatever it is. It's really it's just something that it's just, I can't really even describe it. What do you think?
I think that like having a huge emphasis on strength is really helpful. And you said like the gym is it's very lean. It's strength, it's weightlifting. If you're weightlifting, you're focused on 1 rep max snatch, clean and jerk. If you're strength, you're focusing on like lifting heavier in these 5 lifts. So a lot of people, while they have these like aesthetic goals, everything we do is really about performance.
Yeah.
And I think that just creates and shapes the culture of like always trying to get better, always trying to lift heavier, always trying to be more consistent, so that when that testing period does come around, we're better and we're stronger. And that just kind of, I don't know, it just bleeds into everything, both when we are hosting classes, the way that our coaches carry themselves, into how people treat each other outside of the gym when they hang out, and so on.
Yeah, there's also a wolf pack kind of dynamic to it.
He's obsessed with wolves. That's also another part that he didn't describe.
I mean, since I was a kid, very I like wolves. They're very interesting. I love the dynamic, within a wolf pack, the different parts of it, the way they interact. There's no words, just the whole thing. And it's very symbolic. And although it's not the logo, it definitely is a part of it. And so people will often refer to, like my pack, or not mine, but ours, the wolf pack, or so that is also definitely part of it.
And has all the growth been organic, or are you guys running ads, doing anything like that?
Yeah, it's been organic. We're not running paid ads. We haven't. It's something I do plan to do, but no, up to this point, we have not.
And so when most people come in, what's the most common question you get how'd you find us? What's the answer to that?
At this point, it's Google.
Olympic weightlifting, like what are they searching for? Because it looks like you're set up to be an Olympic, like you'd rank 1 in Olympic weightlifting.
Mostly it's going to be like, weightlifting, whether that's 1 or 2 words, Olympic anything, strength training. I think now though based on like the Google keywords, even for like gym near me, if you're in the area, or maybe even in Dallas, like we're not showing up too far down for some of those terms like personal training and, group classes. But I think we do dominate though with like Olympic weightlifting or anything close to that.
Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, number 9, gym in Dallas.
Or gym in Dallas.
On page 1, there you go.
Yeah, nice. I think in anything though, if it's strength weightlifting, it's going to be pretty. Or if you include the word Olympic, we're probably pretty close to the top.
Yep. And so, we know about the 2 of you. Maybe give us some insight. How do you split duties? And then what does the team look like now that the gym's a little larger?
Yeah, the team. So it's changed quite a bit since I first started. I do have one coach, Natalie Parsley, who was with me at the first location. So in the basement. And she actually worked for the CrossFit gym. And I needed help. And she wasn't, coaching too many classes for then. I talked to them, asked them if I could, have her help me out. They were good with it. She started coaching, some of my classes, and then has been with me ever since. She's great. She does a lot of personal training, still does a little bit of group classes. And then there's 7 of us total here. And then a coach that moved away, he lives in New York now, still does a little bit of like weightlifting remote coaching. So 8 in total. Our duties are, I think Jessica is probably better served to answer this. I think they need to be better like everybody, organized and split and defined and just, definitive descriptions. But right now, Jessica does all of the Instagram. It's been a few years now, really. She has, learned how to edit the videos, photos. We have a nice setup, camera. She can do it all. And so she has taken that side of things really entirely, even like the content creation and ideas that come with it. Then I do like the website. My responsibility with that is trying to get leads in. she's a closer, so she does the sales consultations and has a great record. So if, again, even though when we started it was like 100% with not very many people, it's still pretty close to it when you come and meet with her. You're not going to say no. She coaches a few of the strength classes. I'm not on the schedule right now for any of the Olympic weightlifting, but I will be here often, during some of the classes to kind of walk around, help out, coach. Sometimes I work out a little bit. I have 2 guys who coach the Olympic weightlifting classes. And then we have 4 coaches on the strength and conditioning side.
And I think, I mean, I don't know how true this is, but I think we had in our notes, you guys have some video people too, like more full-time brand support. Maybe that's not true, but
well, it kind of is, but that's Jessica.
Great, fantastic,
yeah.
Perfect.
Early on, we had several people we worked with consistently to come and shoot and film and everything, but over time she just continued to get better at it, and at a certain point it was like a very obvious, this is a good position for you to be in because you're great at it, so let's go ahead and do that.
I've like picked up a camera to make a video, like a behind the scenes vlog, kind of messing around one day, and started editing it on Final Cut Pro. And I was like, I love this. And then I like bought an expensive course and went through all this material, and I really enjoyed it. So then we kind of more or less stopped working with a few of the people we were having make content for us. And I just started doing it.
And prior to that, I was doing all the social media. And at the time, it was very helpful to have help there, so I could, I guess, do other things or use time in a different way.
So then, Jessica, what is your approach to like content? Like, do you have like a calendar? Do you have like a kind of rhythm, or like how do you figure out what you're gonna create?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it works better if I batch things out. So sit down and brainstorm and come up with a bunch of ideas. Technically thinking because I am a coach and I'm in the gym, it's really helpful because I hear people's problems. And so taking their problems and just kind of trying to use social media to address those things is really helpful. But I'll just kind of brainstorm, and then I am here for evening classes, although I don't coach any evening classes. And so that's typically like time where I will film or schedule something with Kyle if it's something specific. When he's coaching or teaching a ramp up, it's a really good opportunity to create some content out of that. But sometimes I'll mic coaches and film that way. But I'll like film a bunch, and then I'll sit down and I'll edit 7 to 10 posts at a time, and then just use Instagram, TikTok, whatever, to like schedule them. I would say like there are 4 real topics. One is like community, because that's what keeps everybody together, keeps everyone coming back, like showing up for each other. One is like, work hard, make yourself proud, as kind of like a theme that we focus on, like that gritty, I'm going to do it even when I don't feel like it mindset. And then another form of content is going to be more like educational, how to back squat, split jerk footwork, so on. And then the last one I would say would be more kind of like behind the scenes, what's going on, that kind of thing.
So this is like a community. This would be an educational. This is like a goal one.
Motivation. Yeah.
And then
a little bit. I would say maybe the 4th or 5th one would be like, a right hook kind of post where you're like posting about what you offer. So more of a call to action for selling something, or is you're like value, and then some sort of like CTA for services offered.
And will do you just start by saying, hey, I want to do one of each of these, or is it just kind of you'll get everything out of whatever it is you want to make and then say, hey, we're a little behind?
Yeah, maybe if I was more disciplined, I could do it that way. But a lot of it is just like, I just kind of, it's more creative and go off of like feeling and also the content that I have. So when I am pressed for time and not in a position to like sit down and plan everything out, then it'll be like, okay, like what do I have on my hard drive? this was a batch that I shot on whatever day, like I can take this and make a post out of it. So a lot of times it will also be kind of, I don't know, just what I have to work with and what I'm feeling that day.
So it looks like you're posting about 3 or 4 times a week. Does that sound right?
Yeah, and it's we shoot for every day, but lately it's probably closer to that 3 or 4.
And then I'm sure you see other gyms' Instagrams, and they most of them are not as good as this. What do you think is the biggest issue? With gym owners who struggle to put out decent content on Instagram. Like, what advice would you have for someone like that?
Yeah, I mean, my initial thought is like, you know, maybe instead of immediately looking at Instagram and trying to solve that problem, look at what you're doing inside the walls and solve that problem. Because if you don't have anything to post, then or if people were getting good results, you could certainly post that, and that's a great thing to post. If you were, doing things like if the training was something that other people wanted to see, that would be a good thing to post, definitely. If you had good things or like, some knowledge to drop, then that would be a good thing. So if you're just kind of stuck and you're not sure what to do, I would kind of look introspectively and maybe sharpen some of your skills before trying to share them. I don't know if that's the answer you were wanting, but
No, it's a good one, and sometimes the hard truths people need to hear. So you guys are cooking. Things seem to be going well. Like, what's the plan? Are there going to be 100 of these? Is this going to be, you want to continue to grow the one? What are you guys thinking for the future?
yeah, I guess that's the ultimate question. I don't know about 100. We have talked to, at various times about the idea of franchising, and I'm not opposed to it, but I think I do understand how complex and difficult it gets whenever you start to go that route. I'm not sure if that's the route I want to go. We're working on an app right now for remote coaching and programming, which we already do, but this will really allow us to scale and do it a lot better than we currently are, along with the kind of infrastructure to also, do marketing with, whether it's email campaigns or social, like we, just described or talked about. So the future, I think here, it looks promising. I don't want to grow it to like 500 people or anything. I like the idea of delivering very, valuable coaching to the people who are here and willing to pay properly for it. And then, with the online stuff, it's definitely easier to scale, and they both will kind of work together. It's like one, supports the other. If we continue to do things correctly here and we're able to show that on social media and grow our members and our brand, then that will surely, help to promote the online stuff and vice versa. It kind of gives you, I think, having a location, physical location that's successful immediately validates the online stuff that you're doing. Not to say you can't only do online with no location, but it certainly it helps for sure. So I'd like to scale the online and continue to grow this and maintain the standards that we have.
And so we're running up on the hour. I want to be mindful of your time. Where do people go if they want to follow along on the journey?
So my Instagram is my name. It's Kyle Dostershill. Jessica's is Jess Dostershill. And so if you type in DOST, or that's probably enough to start finding it.
There aren't very many Doster shows.
Yeah, if you go TER, there's only a few of us in the world, so we're easy to find. And then the gym's Instagram is Hunger in the Wild, and on all socials, it's Hunger in the Wild.
And Mateo, where do people go to find us?
Yeah, go to usekilo.com. We're also hungry. We're also out here in the wild world of gym management software. So if you need help with your website, if you need help with your marketing automation, if you want to make sure you're maximizing all those leads you're getting down into the basement without electricity, give us a shout. We can also help you with your gym management software so that when you do have someone come into your unlit basement, you can actually sell them something. So give us a look-see, usekilo.com. book a call today, and that's where you can find us.
Yeah, join that Kilo Wolf pack.
Yep, Kilo Wolf Pack, exactly right.
Kyle, Jessica, thanks for taking the time. Congrats on the success. The gym looks awesome, and we'll be following along from a distance. And Gym World, if you enjoyed this, be sure to share it with a gym owner in need, and leave Teo a little comment. He loves reading every single one. So until next week, Gym World, we love you.